In this video, I'm going to show you how to add fractions or subtract fractions with unlike denominators. We call these fractions unlike fractions. In my example here, you can see that I have unlike fractions. One has a denominator of 10, the other has a denominator of 6. So what I need to do is I need to build these fractions into like fractions in order to add them together. So step one is to find the LCD. The LCD is the least common denominator or the least common multiple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to list multiples of each of these numbers. I'm going to list multiples of 10 and I'm going to list multiples of 6 till I find the smallest multiple that they have in common. Well, multiples of 10, the first thing I would do is I would start with 10 times 1 is 10. 10 times 2 is 20. 10 times 3, 30. 10 times 4, 40. I've listed some here, so now I'm going to go ahead and list the multiples of 6. So listing multiples of 6, 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times 4 is 24. And 6 times 5 is 30. Now notice I need to stop right there because I found a common multiple. Both 10 and 6 have 30 as a common multiple. And since this is the first multiple they have in common, it's the smallest or least common multiple. And therefore, it's going to be the smallest or least common denominator. So when I rename each of these fractions, I'm going to need to have 30 as a denominator. So I'm done with step one. I found the LCD. Next thing I need to do now is build like fractions with that LCD of 30. So now I'm to step two, where I need to build these into like fractions. We already determined that the new denominator needs to be 30. So I've set up my framework here with 30 as the new denominator. And so I'm going to multiply 1/10 times some fraction here so that I get 30 as the denominator. Well, in order to figure out what that is, all I have to ask myself is 10 times what is going to give me 30? And the answer is 3. Now, since I've multiplied the bottom of this fraction by 3, I need to multiply the top of this fraction by 3. So 1 times 3 is going to give me 3/30. The reason I need to multiply both the top and the bottom by the same number is so that I'm multiplying by 1. So here's kind of a big fat 1 that I've drawn there. This fraction 3 over 3 is equal to 1. Well, if I take 1/10 times 1, I am not going to change the value of 1/10. And so therefore, when I multiply by 3 over 3, I'm not changing the value of this fraction, I'm just changing the way that fraction looks. So 1/10 and 3/30 are equal in value. Now I'm going to do the same process with 5/6. So I look down here at the 6 and I ask myself, 6 times what is going to give me this 30? Well, the answer is 5. And again, I make sure that I multiply the top by 5 so that I'm multiplying this 5/6 times a fraction that's equal to 1. And that's going to give me 25/30. So now I'm actually ready to add these fractions. Now they both have a common denominator of 30, and now they're like fractions. So 1/10 is now going to become 3/30, and 5/6 is now going to become 25/30. Okay? I've built the like fractions. 1/10 is equal to 3/30. 5/6 is equal to 25/30. Now I'm ready to add these fractions together. Well, to add fractions, the denominator always stays the same because these are 30ths. I'm adding more 30ths to it, so I'm going to end up with 30ths in the answer. Now I just add the numerators. 3 plus 25 is 28. So I turn these unlike fractions into like fractions so that I can add them. And now I'm down to my very last step, which is to simplify these fractions. Simplify our answer. To simplify my answer, I'm just going to factor both the numerator and denominator. Well, if I start with 28, I factor 28. I'm thinking 4 times 7 would be a great place to start. The 7 is prime, but the 4 is not. So I go ahead and factor that again. So it looks like when I factor 28, the prime factorization is 2 times 2 times 7. Now I need to factor the denominator of 30. I'm thinking 6 times 5 to start. 5 is prime, but 6 is not, so I go ahead and write that down again. So there's my prime factorization of 30. Once I have both the numerator and denominator factored, I'm going to divide out the common factors, which in this case is just a 2. And then I'll multiply what's left. In the numerator I have 2 times 7, or 14. And in the denominator I have 3 times 5, or 15.